Today's critique is about capturing likeness freehand without a transfer. I made this critique for Yama, and after she watched the critique, she made another painting, which I'm excited to share with all of you at the end of this video. Please enjoy. Hey Yama, thank you for sending this in for a critique. I'm assuming that you've drawn this freehand. Of course, there are tons and tons of tools all the way up into just doing a perfect transfer of a likeness, right? And you can see that I've already moved the reference image around. Originally, the character was further back, and it's a lot easier to draw freehand if you can just get the reference to match the size that you're going to capture so that you have a one-to-one comparison. I'm just going to talk about a few ideas for you. You know, there's little tools like finding negative shapes. Negative shapes as in the white of this in here is much more narrow than this. This seems to be a little bit taller. So that would tell me that maybe the ear needs to go down. And so I can point out things like that, but that's just helping you with this drawing. It's not necessarily giving you the tools. I'm really trying to find a way to give you something that you can apply into other works as well. So what I would say, if I can point you to a process that could really help you, when I'm drawing, I'm constantly looking for length and height comparisons. Okay, so let's say that I decide this will be the height of the nose, and then it stops around this shadow. Maybe I do all the way to the very dark of that nose. And I could, in theory, take that measurement, and I can do it with my pencil, or I could do it mentally. But I would essentially take that over into the drawing, and that's when I could start to, you know, flesh it out and things like that. But what really helps keep you anchored is having one frame of reference, one unit of measure. So let's say that we think in terms of everything as being on one nose length. So how many noses does it take to fit this ear? And you can make a comparison visually, or you can even make a measurement and then carry your pencil over and see how that looks. In this case, using digital tools, I can cheat a little bit and I can drag this over because we already know that this is the height of the nose. And we can see that the ear is actually a little bit longer. This ear is one nose tall plus 0.1, 1/10 of the nose. Add 1/10 and now I have the size. So you can do that. And you can even take this and you can rotate it, right, to do the size of, you know, what is the length of the brow? I would really be looking around, like finding corners, finding clear things that I can do these size comparisons. So that can be really helpful. Again, very slow and tedious, but it's also a good way to just check your work. How is the length of this ear compared to the length of the nose? So that's one thing. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. And then another aspect would be you can check your work by finding angles. Let's say that you decide that you're going to use this corner of the nose, and then you can draw an angle, and you can mentally or using your pencil carry that angle over and see how it stacks up to your image. And now here we can see that there is some kind of issue. So if we're lining it up on the right side, we find that the nose needs to be longer. If we bring it up here, then we find that the brow needs to be lifted. And then the more that you do those kinds of angles, and really I kind of did this backwards. You would take it from the reference image, of course, and then you would carry it over. So here, so it looks like there's another issue in there. Maybe that's why we're feeling like the face is a little bit squat, either squished or stretched. So you can use the measurements of things and you can use the angles of things to triangulate and correct your work. Now, let's get rid of these lines. So if I just remove the lines all the way up to the edge of his face, like think about how thick these lines are. They are definitely playing a role in how we perceive the end of his face. If they were razor thin, then they wouldn't play quite as big of a role, right? But this actually could be part of your solution to correcting some of your shapes, either thinning your lines or removing your lines entirely. So let's say that that is actually the outer shape in here, but also those black lines are, by being black and having that contrast, it's pushing his jawline forward like this, which is part of what's making him feel a little bit squat. So this might be when we start to look at our values a little bit more seriously. There's a really bright value in here, a little bit of a brighter value in here, and you've got that, but maybe we can strengthen that a little bit more. Just going to go up in brightness, making this a little bit brighter, letting this cover over, get rid of those lines entirely. There is even a little bit of light that I saw creeping into there. I'm just trying to see if I can, one, eliminate those lines, but also define the planes of the face a little bit better. This is starting to look a little bit more structural. But I think that that has contributed a little bit to making his face feel a lot less squat. Keep that in mind, that values really affect how we perceive the shapes of things because they really play a role. There's always a limit on, the tools you use, and they can become crutches, but at the very least you can use your pen. You can find the heights of things by starting with the top of the pencil, dragging your thumb down to the bottom of that length, and then carry it over to your drawing and just compare. All right. Hopefully this was helpful, and if you have any questions, reach out. As promised, here is the painting that Yama made after watching this critique. The original critique was about twice as long, given just for her, which is pretty typical for YouTube. I'm editing the video down, making it more concise for the broader audience. But I am still giving one free critique per person, no strings attached. Link in the description if you're interested in that. But otherwise, have a beautiful day.